Hello everyone, you are about to hear a brief summary of the movie Ghosts. Enjoy the viewing. Jack expected his wife, as always, to come to the prison to visit him. However, Anne never came. 4 years ago, their life was shattered, and she decided that they needed to move on, so she filed for divorce. The enraged man started to wreck the cell, but when he calmed down, he took a photo of his son from under the bed and cried. Ahmed dropped by to see Jack and informed him that a newcomer had arrived. Paul heard nothing good from the seasoned inmates. They only see him as a plaything for amusement. Jack tore up his wife's photo and burned it. Clay dropped by to see the newcomer and promised him that he wouldn't do anything bad to him. He claimed he just came by to say hello and bring a housewarming gift, a soccer ball. Clay offered his friendship. Although Paul feels threatened by this guy, the cellmate was not so courteous anymore. Paul has to give some kind of pacifier to the thug tomorrow, although he has no idea what it is. Jack watches as Clay and his gang cozy up to the newcomer. Ahmed reminds him that he has only 3 months left, so he shouldn't get involved in anything. Clay reminded the guy again that he can come to him with any question. Paul said he was imprisoned for arson and was about to return to his cell, but was pushed out by the big guy Jason. Clay stood up for the newcomer and at the same time started shaking down the chubby one who owes him money for weed. Because you know what will happen if I don't get it. Clay also ordered Jason to leave little Polly alone. The guy's mood improved, but Jack understands that nothing good is coming his way. Jack called his wife, but someone else answered the phone. Annie wants to talk to him. Ahmed also realizes that Paul will have a tough time. Jack is furious. He has nothing left. Ahmed gives him advice. If he can't save himself, maybe he should help someone who needs it. Of course, he was hinting at Paul. Clay brought the young man to the gym. Allegedly, he wants him to bulk up. The bandit is just buttering him up to keep things under control. Jack came here too. At the right moment, Clay dashed over to him. Deep down, Clay appreciated the naked guy. The authority figure continues to gain his trust, and Jack is still watching these two. He called Paul into the hallway and pointed at Clay's room, from which a similarly skinny guy emerged. The wimp just attended to the gangster, and soon Paul will be competing with him. Clay offered the guy to come in, and when he refused, grabbed him by the balls. If Paul is lying about why he ended up here, everyone will find out soon. In the yard, Chubby promised the authority that today they will hand over the money, and he will pay off his debts. Jack approached the guard Tracy and asked to transfer Paul to his cell. Chubby started pulling contraband out of his backside, and when he finished, Jonah came up and stabbed him in the neck several times with a sheave. He handed the weapon to Clay, who gave it to the newcomer to hide, but Paul refused to take such a risk, and the authority figure threatened that it would be the end for him. Jack saw all of this, which is exactly why he came to Tracy with such a request. The young man needs to be saved. While Paul was showering, Jack was shaving in the next room. Clay quietly slipped past him and attacked the guy. He covered Paul's mouth and did his dirty deed. Jack heard the boy scream but was pinned at the door by the authorities' body. The inmate still broke free and attacked Clay. Our guys and the guards rushed here. But it was already too late. The attackers were led out of the shower in handcuffs. Tracy realized the seriousness of the situation and informed the head of security about Jack's request. Paul and Ahmed switched cells. The guy immediately climbed onto his new bunk and lay on his stomach. In the cafeteria, Paul sat at the same table as Jack's group. Clay noticed that the black gang was up to something, and indeed, as soon as Jonah stepped away, another inmate attacked him. But the authority figure was lucky, he managed to fight back. Clay realized that Jonah had betrayed him. Jack asks the guy to forget what happened in the shower. Just don't stand in Clay's way in the future, and don't ask others why they ended up here. I have nothing to hide. Clay gave away John and said that he was the one who killed the prisoner in the yard. Paul hasn't left his cell for several days. Jack assures his cellmate that as long as one of his friends is nearby, he can relax and move freely around the block. Paul is great at painting portraits. Jack asked him to paint his too, and for some reason he told the neighbor that he has no children. It turned out that the head of security, Donor, deliberately turned a blind eye to Clay's shady dealings. But lately Clay started messing up, and Donor is no longer going to cover for him. One more misstep and it's the end for you. Jack is already counting the days until his departure. Paul tensed up for some reason when he found out that his neighbor was from Wolverhampton. Jack boasted about his neighbor's creativity, and Ahmed immediately asked if he could draw obscene pictures and sell them to the inmates. Clay doesn't like that the downtrodden guy is having fun, but there's nothing he can do about it. After all, his inaction could be seen as weakness by the other inmates. A lawyer came to Paul. He found out about the recent incident and began asking for details. The man suggests that Paul did it intentionally and is punishing himself. "Your words cannot change what I did." Jack suggested his neighbor let it out. The young man said he had never seen his father and his mother didn't care about him. Paul and his brother lived with foster parents. They were good, but the brothers constantly ran away. They gave all new things and money to their mother. Jack also unburdened his soul. He confessed that he killed a person. The man caught a thief in his mother's room and with one blow of a heavy object to the head sent him to the afterlife. The thief was unarmed and was about to run away, so Jack was imprisoned. And Jack also had a child, a son. He died while Jack was here. A vulgar drawing was hung on the door of Clay's cell. A buddy insists they do something, otherwise they'll be cornered. In the lounge, they attacked Jack and shoved him into the storage room. However, Jack grabbed Clay by the throat and stated that he is a coward and incapable of murder. Walks around here like a king, yet hands over his friends to the guards. Jack will tell everyone that Clay punished him, but after this, the authority will leave him and Paul alone. That's the deal. You don't know anything, right, Jackie? Jack let them stab his leg. The comrades are worried about him, but the man settled well in the infirmary and flatly refuses to say who attacked him. Paul handed his friend his portrait. Clay got bolder and looks at Paul with malice. Another newcomer appeared in the prison. He had been in another prison with Paul and knows something about him. The guy was very happy when his cellmate returned to the cell. Jack immediately took out a photo of his son, and memories of a happy past overwhelmed him. Memories are all he has left. At night, Donor decided to punish the troublemaker. He burst into Clay's cell and, dragging him by the neck through all the corridors, threw him into solitary confinement. While Zack was in solitary, each settled into his cell with his black brothers. From now on, Clay is their gopher and will do what he's told. God forbid he even squeaks. They'll bury him immediately. In the corridors, everyone stared at the fallen king and Paul just laughed. Out of anger, Clay reminded Jack of his dead son. Nothing will bring him back now, and suggested he ask the neighbor if he's hiding anything from him. You've lost your boy, so you decided to coddle another. You're the one who should be pitied. Jack became more cautious towards Paul and asked him to stop lying. Jack found out from Clay that in reality, he wasn't transferred from a correctional facility. Paul did not want to talk about it because his accomplices, against whom he testified, were in that other prison and they turned his life into hell. He was beaten half to death until the authorities transferred him here. And it wasn't just arson. He was 16, they had just moved to Wolverhampton, he was looking for new friends, and when he watered the grass with his spears, older guys drove up. One of the guys took out a plastic bottle of gasoline. Paul gave his jumper, and it was torn into rags. Another boy brought empty glass bottles. The hooligans made Molotov cocktails and started throwing them at the wall one by one. Paul wanted to impress the thug and agreed to throw one at the far window. He didn't know that someone else lived in that house. The tough guys lied to him that the building was empty and drove off in different directions on mopeds. The boy was paralyzed with fear and local residents came running. A young woman screamed in a voice that wasn't her own. Paul had seen her before, but she was with a little boy then. He wasn't with her now. Now Paul sees the face of that child every day. This happened 4 years ago. Paul doesn't understand why Jack cried, and he told him to open the book. Paul saw the photograph of that very Jack. The most blonde boy he killed. Paul managed to utter only the words sorry before Jack attacked him. The prisoner threw the guy to the floor and stomped on his head, then smashed it against the floor and continued hitting with his fists until he ran out of strength. The donor took the bloody Jack out of the cell and threw him into solitary. Memories of his wife and little son flooded over him again, but now he had hit rock bottom. When Jack got out of solitary, Ahmed sat next to him and suggested it wasn't a coincidence. They were meant to meet. The prisoner found one of the floor drawings and it depicted his son. The guy always drew people from memory. It's incredible, but Paul is still alive, although his condition is extremely serious. Jack cried and asked him for forgiveness. Paul heard him and reached out his hand to his friend's hands.